course of Chodesh Elul, and then Eretz Hashem during Aseret Yemei, or maybe over Elul and Aseret Yemei, and then Eretz Hashem we will continue our journey with this Shkoyach. I'm sorry? I'm going to get copies today. Shapsi's has like little. Otherwise, I'm going to print it from Hebrew books. They have it on there. They have it online. But I'm going to try to pick up. All right, Joe, say good morning. Let's begin. A lot to do today. Today's daf is Kuf Yotes 119. It's amazing, mamish. Like so many new beginnings and so many conclusions, all coalescing around the same couple of days. It's quite dramatic. Okay, so we'll say Kuf Yotes 119. We are picking up Kuf Yod Chesam days 118b, and we are picking up 4 lines up from the bottom. Excuse me. Oel Moed Shebenov v'Givon Chamishim v'Sheva. So also remember again, the Oel Moed in Givon and Nov stood for 57 years. That's combined. Remember again, we've already seen that Nov and Givon are always reckoned together. 57 years. Meanwhile, then where do we know that from? D'chsiv Vahikas Kiras Aron Alakim. So also remember again, this is by the pasuk in Eli, when Eli's sons Chafni and Pinchas took the Aron out to war inappropriately. Aron is lost in the war with Plishtim. Eli hears about it. Eli falls back and dies. Vahikas Kiras Aron Alakim Vitana Kishames Eli Charva Shiloh. When Eli died, Shiloh was destroyed. Ubal Nov, and they came to Nov. Kishem Shmuel Haramasi Charva Nov Ubal Givon. When Shmuel died, Nov was destroyed, and they went to Givon. Uksiv Vahimi Yom Shavas Haaron B'Kiryas Yaaron Very Yom Vayu Esrim Shana Vayano Kol Beis Yisrael Acharei Hashem. And what's saying the pasuk says that it was in the day that the Aaron came to Kiryat Yaarim. And what happened? They stayed there for 20 years, and Klal Yisrael longed to follow after HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hani Esrim Shana, those 20 years, I will say, are comprised of what? Eser Shana Shemalach Shmuel B'Yatzmo, 10 years that Shmuel reigned by himself. I will say, what does that mean? Now remember again, when it calls Shmuel a king, because Shmuel was the leader of the Jewish people before they asked for a king. I will remember again, Shmuel Hanavi dies as a young man. He dies at the age of 52. He's called old. Why? He's called old, right? Because his position aged him. Right? That's what Jewish communal involvement does, right? So he looked like an old man, but in fact he was only 52 years old. So Eser Shana Shemalach Shmuel B'Yatzmo, V'Shana Shemalach Shmuel, 1 year that Shmuel reigned, V'Shol, together with Shol, Ushtaim Shemalach Shol, which was 2 years that Shol reigned by himself, V'Sheva did David, and 7 years of David. Now we'll discuss David HaMelech reigns for more than 7 years. We'll discuss what that means in just a moment. Top of Kuf Yotes T'chsiv Vayolam Hashem Malach David al Yisrael Mem Shana. David HaMelech reigned over Klal Yisrael for 40 years. So Bechevron Malach Zayin Shana. In Hebron he reigned for 7 years. Ubishlomo Ksiv, and I will say Bishlomo it says Vayacha Livnovs Bishnas Arba'a Lemalchuso. Shlomo begins to build the Beis Hamikdash in the 4th year of his reign. So we'll say what the Gemara essentially did is if you put all of these years together, essentially from the destruction of Shiloh until the building of the Beis Hamikdash, it turns out that what? Nishtayru l'Shiloh shlosh me'os v'shivim chaser achas. But also we learn out from here that Shiloh stood for 369 years, and the combined time of Nov and Givon was 57 years. So we've got Gilgal for 14 years, Nov and Givon, Shiloh for 369 years, Nov and Givon for 57 years, and then we come ultimately again to the building of the Beis Hamikdash. Baal the Nov and Givon. So also remember again, the Mishnah says that when they came to Nov and Givon, so remember again what happened in Nov and Givon. So Hutra Bamos, so you are permitted to go ahead and build Bamos. I'm reading from the Mishnah. Kodshei Kodashim had to be eaten within the curtains of the Mishkan in Nov, but Kodshim Kalim could be eaten anywhere. So it says the Gemara, where do we know this? In other words, we'll say what the Gemara is asking here is from where do we know that bamos were permitted after Kiddushas Shiloh? How do we know that after Shiloh was destroyed, so the bamos become permitted? So the Gemara says, Tanabanan, Kila Basem ad ata ala menucha ve'ala nachala. Because Moshe Rabbeinu says, good morning, Mr. Schoenfeld. Because Moshe Rabbeinu says, Kila Basem ad ata el ha-menucha ve'el ha-nachala. Because again, I will say this week's parsha, because Moshe Rabbeinu says to Klal Yisrael, you have not yet come to the menucha and the nachala. Menucha means resting place, nachala inheritance. What is this a reference to? So the Gemara says, Ela menucha zu Shiloh. Menucha refers to Shiloh. Nachala zu Yerushalayim. Nachala refers to Yerushalayim. Lembama chalkan. We'll say, so why does Moshe Rabbeinu reckon Shiloh and the Beis Hamikdash separately? To teach you what? Kedei litain heter bein zeh lezeh. In order to teach you, Rabbosai, that in between the time periods of time of Shiloh and the Beis Hamikdash, so bamos are permitted. The fact that Moshe Rabbeinu mentions them separately is to tell us that when there's Shiloh, no bamos. When there's Beis Hamikdash, no bamos. But in between Shiloh and Beis Hamikdash, bamos are permitted. Amar lei, Reish Lakish Rabbi Yochanan. So Reish Lakish says Rabbi Yochanan, if that's the case, Meiser Sheni Nami Lisni. Ultimately, again, so says Reish Lakish. So why don't you go ahead and say, or talk about Meiser Sheni as well, and say that Meiser Sheni can be consumed anywhere outside. Look at Rashi. Rashi says Ihachi dibshas heter avai naisi nami Meiser Sheni lenov v'givon shari nistalku kol kedusha shilo umay tam lo tram asisin ochlo sham. Why doesn't it say that Meiser Sheni has to be eaten by Nov and Givon as well? To which the Gemara says, Amalei Meiser Sham me Aron Kayalfi. There is a Gzir Shava of Sham between Meiser Sheni and the Aron. Meaning it says Sham in both contexts. Kevan the Aron Lohava, Meiser Nami Lohavi. But we'll say since in Nov and Givon there was no Aron, the Aron was housed elsewhere. So too again, so therefore again when there's no Aron, there is no obligation to bring Meiser Sheni to that particular place. Look at Rashi. The Chevan the Aron Lohava, the Chol Yimei Nov Givon Haya Aron B'Kiryat Ya'arim Chaf Shana U'Be'ir David Ad Shenin Nabais. Well, so there's actually another very interesting fact. Nov and Givon served as a centralized place of service. There was the Mishkan. The Aron was not housed there. The Aron was an off-site facility, a secure off-site facility in Kiryas Ya'arim. I don't know, by the way, if it's I don't know if it's like Telstone. Right? I don't know if that's biblical. I have to look at. I don't know if that's biblical Kiryas Yarim. So in any event, so the Gemara says, so therefore the obligation to bring Meiser Sheni to the Makam of the Mishkan is fundamentally dependent on the presence of the Aron. If the Aron is there, then you have to bring your Meiser Sheni there. If the Aron is not there, then you need not bring your Meiser Sheni there. Therefore, says the Gemara, there was no Aron and Nov and Givon, and therefore no obligation to bring Meiser Sheni. If that's the case, Ihachi Pesach the Kodshim Nami, right? Why don't you go ahead and also say that by Pesach and Kodshim, it should be the same as well. The Sham me Aron Yalfi, I can make a Gzir Shava of Sham from Pesach and Kodshim ultimately to Aron as well, and say just like there's no Aron, so you shouldn't be obligated to bring Pesach and Kodshim there. The Chayvan the Aron Lohava Inhu Nami Lohavu. Since there's no Aron, maybe you shouldn't bring these things as well. Amalei the Amalei Hamani Rabbi Shimoni. Because I'll say to you, who's the pain this is reflective? I'll say this is Rabbi Shimon. The Amar Af Tzibor Lo Hikrivu Ela Pesach V'Chavos Hakavor Lahan Zman. The Deina Chinami Rabbi Shimon. We saw the Shita yesterday. Rabbi Shimon holds that only Korban Pesach and only Chavos and other obligations, obligatory offerings, which have a set time, were offered up in the Mishkan. Aval chovos she'im kavu lahen zman, but ultimately again obligatory offerings which do not have a set time, so hacha v'hacha lo karov, are not offered up either on a bama gidola or a bama kitana. So meiser behema chovos she'im kavu lahen zman. So we'll say, so when it comes to meiser behema, they are considered to be obligatory offerings that do not have a set time. The iskish meiser dagon le meiser behema. And I will say Meiser Dagon is ultimately again compared to Meiser Behema. Mechlal til Rabbi Yehuda Krav. And now it was seen that according to Rabbi Yehuda, in fact, these items would be offered up. To which the Gemara says, in Da'amar Avad Bar Masna, Meiser Sheni or Meiser Behema Necholin Benov V'Gimel Di Rabbi Yehuda. Then in fact, Rabbi Yehuda does hold that Meiser Sheni and Meiser Behema are in fact offered up in Nov and Givon. I v'ha ba'ibira. Rabbi say, here's the problem. When it comes to Meiser Sheni and Meiser Behema, so the Gemara says it requires bira. We'll say bira literally means like a tower. What it means is it requires ultimately again, it requires lifnei Hashem. It requires being done in the presence of God. So the Gemara says, V'lav Tani Rav Yosef Shalosh Birosein. Did Rav Yosef not teach us in yesterday's daf that in fact there will say there are 3 biros, 3 domiciles of the Ribbon Shalom, and what were they? Shiloh, V'no V'givon Ubeis Olamim. Hu Tani La V'hu Amar La Lachilas Meiser Sheni V'alibud Rabbi Yehuda. So we'll see, he explained it that in fact is talking about ultimately again Meiser Sheni. If you look at Rashi, Hashtaz V'haba Inan Bira Dichsiv Lifnei Hashem Elokeichem. Ultimately, I'm going to say bira means where there's an explicit requirement of being before God. So therefore, the Gemara answers, talking about achilas meiser sheni, and in accordance with the position of Rabbi Huda as we espoused above. So both say, so bottom line, what the Gemara just highlights over here is the statement of the Mishnah, namely the concept that once we came to Nov and Givon, here's what we'll say the important takeaway, which is once we come to Nov and Givon, halacha l'maisa, again, bamos become permitted. And once bamos become permitted, so why are they permitted? So the Gemara dashes based on Moshe Rabbeinu's statement, let's show the pasuk. Kilo basem ad ata el hamenucha ve'el hanachala. Moshe Rabbeinu explicitly articulates 2 distinct periods of menucha and nachala. We're going to discuss what those mean in greater depth in just a moment, but for now the Gemara understands menucha Shiloh, nachala is Beis Hamikdash. Why does Moshe Rabbeinu explicitly articulate these 2 places? To teach you that it's in these 2 places of centralized service where there is an issur of bamos, but in between the periods of menucha and nachala, bamos ultimately again will be permitted. What's permitted on bamos in between those 2 periods? So let's remember again, that's the brisa we saw 2 days ago that has the 4-way machlokes about what you could do on a bama ketana and a bama gidola. So everyone will agree that bamos are permitted between Shiloh and between the Beis Hamikdash. That everyone agrees with. The machlokes is what are you offering on those bamos, and that machlokes devolves upon both what we call a bama ketana, which is a private altar, and a bama gidola, which was the public centralized altar. Good. Bal Yerushalayim. So also when it came to Yerushalayim, so the Mishnah says ne'esru habamos. So bamos became prohibited. V'lo haya lahem heter. So ultimately, again, I will say, and there is no heter after Yerushalayim. In other words, so to this day, bamos are prohibited. Says the Gemara, Suppose the Gemara quotes the pasuk again. Moshe Rabbeinu says, because you have not yet come, you have not yet arrived to the menucha nachala. Says the Gemara, menucha zu Shiloh, nachala zu Yerushalayim. So we'll say, so the pasuk, so the Gemara says, menucha Shiloh, nachala zu Yerushalayim. Va'omer, v'haisa li nachalasi ka'aryeh bayar. The pasuk says, we'll say, the pasuk says, quoting over the pasuk from Yirmiyahu, my nachala, my portion to me, was like a lion in the forest. Va'omer, ha'ayit tzavua nachaltili, ha'ayit saviv aleha. Because we'll say the pasuk says we're going to expound on these psukim. This pasuk will say literally means the colored bird is my portion. The other animals, ha'ayit savivla, the birds of prey surround it. So divrei Rabbi Huda. So we'll say, so these psukim actually we're going to discuss in a greater depth the colored bird. The idea is the colored bird is the bird that stands out, and because it stands out very often, the other animals pick on it. So the Navi describes Klal Yisrael as the colored bird that is surrounded by other birds of prey. And the colored bird, because of its beautiful colors, is an easy target for everyone else. The Rabbi Yehuda. So we'll say, leaving aside the psukim for just a moment, these are the words of Rabbi Yehuda, Menucha Shiloh, Nachal zu Yerushalayim. Shimon Omer, Menucha zu Yerushalayim, Nachal zu Shiloh. We'll say, Shimon says, no, Menucha is Yerushalayim, Nachal is Shiloh. Va'omer, Zos Menuchasi. And I will say, by the way, just so you understand, the reason the Gemara quotes the psukim ultimately again is because the Navi talks about v'haisa li nachalosi ka'aryeh bayar. So we understand these psukim in Yirmiyah are actually making reference to Yerushalayim, and Yerushalayim is referred to as what? As a nachala. Therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu says that you have not yet come to the menucha and the nachala. Rabbi Yehuda understands menucha to mean Shiloh, nachala means Yerushalayim Beis Hamikdash. Reb Shimon says no, menucha zu Yerushalayim, nachala zu Shiloh. He says just the opposite. Menucha zu Yerushalayim, nachala is Shiloh. Va'omer zos menuchasi ad de'ad, po'eshev ki visiha. So we'll say he quotes over here he quotes over here the pasuk from Tehillim, Zos menuchasi. So what do you see? So you see Yerushalayim is called a menucha. Va'omer ki bachar Hashem b'tzion iva l'moshav lo. And I will say the pasuk immediately following, or actually immediately before it, is talking about Yerushalayim. So David talks about Yerushalayim, talks about ki bachar Hashem b'tzion, and immediately afterwards he says Zos menuchasi. So therefore Rabbi Shimon says that what? Menucha refers to Yerushalayim. So Nachala is Shiloh, Menucha is Yerushalayim. So it says the Gemara, here's the problem. So also according to Rabbi Yehuda, I understand Rabbi Yehuda says Menucha Shiloh, Nachala is Yerushalayim. So to him that makes a lot of sense. Why? Why I will say? Because chronologically in the pasuk it makes sense. Moshe Rabbeinu says you have not yet come to the Menucha and the Nachala. So Menucha according to Rabbi Yehuda is Shiloh, Nachala is Yerushalayim. That makes sense. So Ella l'mandam menucha zu Yerushalayim, Nachala zu Shiloh, Ella Nachala ve'al menucha mibayle. But according to Rabbi Shimon, who says that menucha ultimately is Yerushalayim and Nachala is Shiloh, Moshe Rabbeinu should have said El HaNachala ve'el HaMenucha. Hachi kamar. This is what it means to say Lo mibay menucha de lo matisu, Ella afilu l'Nachala lo matisu. So we'll say according to this opinion, when Moshe Rabbeinu says this in fact is an initial reference to Gilgal. According to this approach, when Moshe Rabbeinu says Kilo basem ad ata ela menucha ve'ela nachala, he's actually saying when you get to Gilgal, which we'll say if you think about it is logical. It's an incredible interpretation. Moshe Rabbeinu is talking to them by Eivra Hayarden. They're about to go in. What's the first stop for the Mishkan when they come into Eretz Yisrael? Gilgal. How long is it in Gilgal for? 14 years. 7 years of kibush, 7 years of chiluk. Right? So according to this opinion, Moshe Rabbeinu was telling them, when you get to Gilgal and you set up shop there, understand Kilo basem Kilo basem ad ata ela menucha ve'ela nachala. So when you get to Gilgal, that Mishkan will certainly not have the status of the menucha of the Beis Hamikdash. But not only that, it won't even have the status of nachala of Shiloh. So the Gemara says, Tanit Rabbi Shmuel, zu v'zu Shiloh. So we'll say in Tanit Rabbi Shmuel they taught that both Menucha and Nachala, both are referring to Shiloh. Rabbi Shimon Yochai Omer, Zu v'zu Yerushalayim. Rashbi says, no, it's both a reference to Yerushalayim. Sabishtam l'man da'amar Menucha zu Shiloh, Nachala zu Yerushalayim. Inami ipcha. So we'll say, if you say that Menucha is Shiloh, and Nachala is Yerushalayim, or even vice versa, or that Menucha is Yerushalayim, and Nachala is Shiloh, Hainu dichsiv ela menucha ve'ela nachala. See, I will say, if you accept the premise that menucha and nachala apply to do different things, then what? Then I understand why you need two different descriptive terms. Because Moshe is talking about two different places, Shiloh and Yerushalayim. So we could have a machlokes, like Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon, about which term refers to what. That's fine, we could have that discussion. But I understand the need for two words. Ela leman da'amar zu v'zu Shiloh, o zu v'zu Yerushalayim, Menucha Nachala mibayle. So we'll say, but I don't understand. If both Menucha and Nachala, both of those terms refer to the same place, either both of them referring to Yerushalayim or both of them referring to the Beis Hamikdash, then I have a simple question, which is what? Why do I need two terms to refer to the same place? To which the Gemara says, Kasha. You know what? That is a good question. So we'll say, so just so you understand where we are right now, because it's actually quite dramatically exciting. So we'll say, and this is dramatically exciting because it's mamish like trying to figure out what is Moshe Rabbeinu telling Klal Yisrael. What's the statement? What's the statement that is being made here? So we'll say, so Moshe Rabbeinu is telling them, Kilo basem andata ela menucha ve'anachala. So let's go through what we have. Either menucha means Yerushalayim, Nachala means, let's do it easier. Menucha means Shiloh, Nachala means Beis Hamikdash, or menucha means Beis Hamikdash, Nachala means Yerushalayim. And I will say, if that's the case, according to that second approach, Moshe is actually talking to them not just about Yerushalayim and Shiloh, but he's also talking to them about what? About Gilgal, and telling them that Gilgal will not be as great as, certainly as the Beis Hamikdash, but not even as great as Shiloh. And I will say, third possibility is Menucha and Nachala both mean Yerushalayim. Fourth possibility is that Menucha and Nachala both mean what? Both mean Shiloh. So I'll say, so again, it's dramatically amazing because here Moshe is clearly conveying to Klal Yisrael something of incredible importance, and yet we have a four-way machlokes what he is actually referring to. So it says the Gemara, Bishlam alamanda amar zu v'zu Shiloh. So we'll say, I understand if you say that both menucha and nachala refer to Shiloh. So what I will say, so why? If you hold that they both refer to Shiloh, obviously, if the Torah is using if Moshe is using two different words or two different descriptive terms to refer to Shiloh, they must describe two distinct aspects of Shiloh's identity. Says the Gemara. So Bishlam alamanda amar zu v'zu Shiloh menucha. Why is it called menucha? The nachu bikibush, because we'll say it was in Shiloh where they rested from conquering. Nachala zu depalgu hasam nachalos. It's called nachala. Why? Because that's the place we'll say ultimately again where they also concretized the division of the land. So we'll say, remember again, as much as the Mishkan is in Gilgal, over the 14 years, 7 of kibush, 7 of chiluk, 7 of conquering, 7 of dividing, the war really isn't over until the end of the 14 years. And apparently the division itself was fully solidified and concretized in the Mishkan in Gilgal. Because the Pasuk says, the Gemara says, the Palgal Sam Nachlos, Tichsiv, Vayach, Gemara over quotes the Pasuk from which going Pasuk from Yoshua. Vayashlech Yoshua Gora B'Shilo Lefnei Hashem Vayichalek Shem Yoshua Es Haaretz L'Bnei Yisrael Kimachlok Sam. So we'll say, so what happens is after they had divided it up amongst themselves, they also did a Gora, they also did a lottery in the Mishkan in Shiloh. So therefore I will say it's called Menucha, because when the Mishkan was reestablished in Shiloh, it was a period of peace and tranquility. Nachala, which means inheritance, because it is the place ultimately where the tribal portions were solidified amongst Klal Yisrael. Good. So Ella Lamandam Zuvu Yushalayim. So we'll say, but if you hold that both Menucha and Nachala both refer to Yushalayim, so listen to this. So Bishlam and Nachala, Nachalos Olamim. So we'll say, I understand why Yushalayim is called Nachala. It's actually quite beautiful. Why is it called Nachala? We'll say, because Nachala refers to an inheritance. And it's a Nachala Olamis. It is a portion, or really portion is better. Nachala Olamis. It is an eternal portion for Klal Yisrael. Ela menucha, my menucha. We'll say ultimately again, why is Yerushalayim ultimately called menucha? So we'll say, by the way, if you think about it, if there's one thing Yerushalayim cannot be called, it's menucha, right? We'll say again, Yerushalayim has been from the beginning, has been the site ultimately again of so much struggle between the nations of the world. I'm not a historian, but I venture to say there's no city in the history of mankind that has been at the center of struggle as much as Yerushalayim from the beginning of time. Remember again, when Avram Avinu comes back from the war of the 4 kings against the 5, he comes back to Malki Tzedek, Melech Shalem. So people come to rest from war in Yerushalayim. People come to do war in Yerushalayim. So Nachala, says the Gemara, is a good descriptive term. Because again, it's our eternal portion. Very important to remind ourselves of this every once in a while. It is the entire thing is ours, right? It's our eternal portion. But menucha, what's the pshat with menucha? So the Gemara says, my menucha. So we'll say, it's interesting. You would have thought again, because it's a piece of tranquility, spiritual elation. The Gemara doesn't say that. The Gemara says, menuchas aron. It is the place where the Aron rests, which Rabbi says is a very dramatic idea. The Aron Bris was located in many different places throughout history, and wherever it is now. I will say, but there is one place where ultimately, again, it is at rest, and that is in Yerushalayim Mirakodesh. The Gemara says, "Dichsiv vayhi kenoach Aron," because the pasuk says, and it was when the Aron rested. So I'll say, so therefore, again, now we've seen that even if you hold that both Menucha and Nachala refer to one place, either Shiloh or Yerushalayim, we see how each of the terms Menucha and Nachala refer to different aspects of Shiloh and different aspects of Yerushalayim. Bishlam l'mandamar zuvuzu Yerushalayim, aval Shiloh hava sharia bamos. So supposed to listen to this. If you hold that both Menucha and Nachala refer to Yerushalayim, so we'll say this is actually very important. Because remember again, this has direct impact on a very important halacha we just learned before, which was what? Remember, according to the Gemara in Amud Aleph, which was going according to the approach that Menucha and Nachala refer to 2 different places. Menucha is where? Oh, seriously? Right? Menucha Shiloh, right? We'll say it's one more blot to Menachos. It's one more blot. Come on, just stick with me. Don't bleed out over here at the end. Right? So the Gemara says as follows. So remember again, if you go to simple, the Pashat Pshat on Amud Aleph, which is that Menucha refers to Shiloh, Nachala refers to Yerushalayim. So we'll say there's a very important halachic concept which comes from that, which is Moshe Rabbeinu telling them that Bamos will be Aser in Menucha and Nachala. But what? In between Menucha and Nachala, what's the halacha? Bamos are permitted. So that was a very important halacha that drove almost everything for the last 4 blot, which I question your attentiveness during the last 4 blot, right? So that drove a lot of our conversation over the last couple of days. If you entertain the possibility that Menucha and Nachala are also referred to the same place, then I'm stuck, because then what it's telling me is, well, actually, the truth is, I don't know what it's telling me then about heter bamos, about the permissibility of using bamos in all of these different stages. So the Gemara says as follows. So watch this. So according to the opinion, it says that both Menucha and Nachala refer to Yerushalayim, right? Menucha refers to the fact that it's the place of where the Aron rested. Nachla is the eternal portion of Klal Yisrael. So Aval Shiloh Havashar Yabamos. So I will say, now watch this. If your Menucha and Nachala both refer to Yerushalayim, then I will say, what does that tell you? That all the way until the building of the Beis Hamikdash, right? Then what Rabbi was saying, and remember, building of the Beis Hamikdash is almost like 425 years from time that Klali. So it's 369, 14 plus 57 plus 369. So whatever that amount is, that's the amount of time until Klali so went ahead and built the Beis Hamikdash. So what you're telling me then is that both if Menucha and Nachal Rabosai refer to Yerushalayim Rabosai, then what? Then Bamos are permitted all the way until the time of the Beis Hamikdash. Which Rabosai, with that, how many years? 430. So right. So if you do that, we'll say if you do that, then halacha lemaisa, you've just dramatically changed Jewish history, right? That you've just gone ahead and from the time that Klal Yisrael went into Eretz Yisrael for 430 years, ultimately again, is there a math machlokas? 431. Okay. Less than 435, we'll say it, right? So we'll say, so the idea is if you're going into Eretz Yisrael, if you hold Menucha and Nachala, both refer to Yerushalayim, then halacha lemaisa, they're using Bamos all the way until the Beis Hamikdash, which actually says the Gemara helps us with a problematic story. Dechsev, vayikach manoach es gedia izim, ves hamincha, vayal al atzor la Hashem. We'll say the Gemara makes reference to a dramatic story, which is the story of the birth of Shimshon, right? The birth of Shimshon. And we'll say, remember again, the story we read, Shimshon's mother is told by the Malach that she's going to have a baby. He's going to be a Nazir mi Betan. And then what happens? Her husband doesn't totally believe the story. Husband sees the Malach. Husband builds an altar right there to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now I will say, that was during the times ultimately again of Shiloh. And Manoach, Shimshon's father, is what? Is building a bama. Now, up until now, that story is very problematic for us. Why? Because there's no private bamos when Shiloh was standing. So how is Manoach able to build an altar? Oh, now we have a beautiful answer for it. If Yol Menucha and Nachala, ultimately, right, I will say, if Yol Menucha and Nachala refers both to Yerushalayim, that means bamos are permitted for the 430, what? 440. Okay.
I did 359.
Good, 440. Right, if you hold it right for the entire 440 years, I'll say then bamos are permitted. Then I understand how Manoach built a mizbeach. How he built the bama. Eleman da'amar zuvazu shilo ubamos have asirin. My vayikach Manoach. But I'll say if you hold that ultimately again, that both refer to Shiloh, that both Menucha and Nachal refer to Shiloh, I'll say that means that's what? That's certainly again that bamos are usher during times of Shiloh. Then how was Manoach able to build a bama to HaKadosh Baruch Hu after hearing about the miraculous birth of his son? To which the Gemara says, Horaz Shah Haisa. Manoach's case is an exception. I'll say what we call a Horaz Shah, that the Malach told him to build the Mizbeach. So if the Malach told him to build the Mizbeach, ultimately again he built the Mizbeach, which I will say in general is an interesting discussion about, in this week's parasha you have the Mesis, the person who tells you to go against the word of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Navi Sheker. So again, apparently if the Malach tells you, you could do it, but the Navi Sheker tells you you can't do it. So in any event, the Gemara answered by saying it was an exception. It was an exception. Tana, the Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. So we'll say, interestingly enough, in the Yeshiva Rabbi Shmuel, they taught in accordance with Rashbi. with Rabbi Shmuel Bar Yochai. Remember again, Rashbi was of the opinion, Rabbi Shmuel Bar Yochai said, Zu v'zu Yerushalayim. He taught that both Menucha and Nachala refer to Yerushalayim. So say in the yeshiva of Rabbi Shmuel, they were teaching in accordance with Rabbi Shmuel Bar Yochai. V'simanach, and how do you remember this? Mashchi Gavra legavri. The one man was able to go ahead and convince the other. So apparently, again, Rabbi Shmuel Bar Yochai's original opinion was that of a solitary opinion, that both Menucha and Nachala both refer to Yerushalayim, but apparently he was able to win over larger numbers of people as they were teaching his limud in the yeshiva of Rabbi Shmuel. I will say, just so you should know, again, obviously it's a machlokes, and it's a historical machlokes. It appears based on our Gemaras that that's not the conventional understanding. The conventional understanding of Menucha and Nachala is as we have been approaching it this entire time, which is what? Which is Menucha is Shiloh, Nachala is Yerushalayim. Bamos are usher during the time of Shiloh. Bamos are forever usher once the Beis HaMikdash is built. But in between the periods of time of Shiloh and the Beis HaMikdash, bamos are permitted. During Novin Givon, bamos are permitted. In Gilgal, bamos are permitted. Says the Gemara, Kala Kodshim. So remember again, the Mishnah then said, Kala Kodshim. I'm sorry. This was Hakodshim. Kala Kodshim shekdishan b'shas Isra abamos ekvim b'shas Isra abamos yibachutz. The next part of the Mishnah dealt with an interesting situation where you consecrate karbanos during a time of, let's say, heter bamos, and you offer it up during a time of Isser bamos. So the Gemara dealt with all of the different variations over here. So the first statement in the Mishnah was that if you went ahead, Kol HaKodshim, Shekdishim B'Shas Isser Bamos, if you sanctified a karban during the time when bamos were aser, Vekrivan B'Shas Isser Bamos, and you offered it up when bamos were aser, outside of the Beis HaMikdash, in other words, you did everything that was aser, then the halacha was, you chayv karis. But Ekdishon b'shas heter bamos, the Krivim b'shas Isra bamos, if you sanctified the carbon at a time when bamos were aser. But what happens? You went ahead and you offered it up at a time when bamos were permitted. Excuse me, just the opposite actually. You sanctified it at a time when bamos were permitted, but you offered it up at a time when bamos were aser. Then the halacha is you are over on an Isser, but you do not get kares. So says the Gemara, Amrav Kana lo shanu ela b'shchita. Aval Bahalo Kares Nami Mechayiv. So we'll say comes along Rav Kahana and he says as follows: Lo Shanu. Rashi says Diktani Dikdishan B'Shas Heter Vekrivan B'Shas Isser Ein Bakaris. When we said in the Mishnah that if you sanctify a carbon at a time when bamos are permitted, and you offer it up bachutz on a bama kitan in your own bama. When bamos are aser, so consecration took place when bamos were permitted, but yet offering took place when bamos were prohibited. So the Mishnah Paskin, it's aser, right? There's an iser, but you're not chayv kares. Rav Kana qualifies that. He says that's true with shchita. That's true with shchita. If you shecht it bachutz, you will be chayv in iser, but there is no kares. But if you actually offer it up as a karban, there is a chiyuv kares. My time, what's his reason? Damakra, va'alehem tomar, because the pasuk says, this pasuk is talking about ultimately the offering up of a karban. Va'alehem tomar, ala smuchin tomar. So we'll say ultimately again, this pasuk is juxtaposed to the section concerning shchita. So therefore again, the Gemara sort of kind of coming along to say that it's dafka the shchita, where ultimately if one does it bachutz, it will not be an Isser Kares, but if one does ha'alah, if one offers up the carbon outside, in fact, there will be Kares. So also remember again, I just want to point out, Rav Kana is speaking about a very specific case here. This is the case where you were makdish the carbon at the time when bamos were permitted, but you offered it up at a time where bamos were prohibited. Rav Kahana says for shchita, you're not chayiv karis. Shchita b'chutz not chayiv karis, but ha'alah b'chutz you'll be chayiv karis. And based on this pasuk, so maskef Rabba says, but 1 second, miksiv va'aleim tomar. Does the pasuk says va'aleim with an ayin, which Rabbi would means that you can learn out from the juxtaposition. Aleihem with an aleph ksiv va'o tanya. Abba klalos hayr b'Shimon Omer. Rav Shimon said 4 principles when it came to Kodshim Rabosai. What are the 4 principles? Hekdishin b'shas esra bamos, v'shachat vela b'shas esra bamos. If you shechted an animal if you consecrated an animal at a time when bamos were aser, and you shechted it and you offered it up while bamos were aser, which I will say everything is aser here. So what's the halacha? Harehin ba'asei v'los asei b'vish b'hen kares. We'll say that's just a classic case of shchutei chutz. Bamos are aser, and you consecrated the animal, you offered it up outside, you shechted it and you offered it up while bamos are aser. That's shchutei chutz yichayev kares. Next case, hekdisha b'shas hetra bamos. If you consecrated it when bamos were permitted, v'shachat v'hela b'shas isir habamos. And I will say, and you shechted it and you offered it up when bamos are aser, harehin ba'asei v'lo sasei ve'ein bahen kares. So we'll say that's the explicit case that we're talking about over here. So yet, what do you see? Rabbi Shimon is saying explicitly that if you shechted it and you offered it up bachutz, even at a time of isra bamos, ultimately again you are not chayiv kares. Hikdishon b'shas isra bamos. If you went and you were makdish at the time of bamos or aser, v'shachat v'hela bachutz b'shas hetra bamos, and you went ahead and you shechted it and you offered it up outside time when bamos were permitted, harehin ba'asei, that you're in violation of a positive commandment, ve'ein bahen below sasei, and there is no lo sasei. Hekdishin b'shas hetra bamos, v'shachat v'ela b'shas hetra bamos. We'll say this last case is the obvious one. You consecrated it when bamos were permitted. You shechted it and offered it up when bamos were permitted. Then ultimately again pater miklum. To which the Gemara says, you're right. Tiyufta d'Rav Kahana tiyufta. So we'll say this statement of Rav Shimon effectively refutes the statement of Rav Kahana. Therefore, if we'll say, so Rav Kahana wanted to say that in the case where you consecrated the carbon at a time when bamos were permitted, but you didn't actually end up offering it up until a time where bamos were prohibited. So Rav Kahana suggested that if you just did the shchita bachutz, you're only in violation of a lo saseh, but not kares. But if you actively offer it up, you are chayiv kares. The Gemara now effectively refutes that position ultimately again from the Mishnah, as well as from the statement of, who was it? Of Rabbi Shimon. And I will say halacha lamaisa, in a case where you consecrated the carbon at a time where bamos were permitted and you offered it up outside a time where bamos were prohibited, shchita ha'ala'ah, you will be in violation of a lav, but there is no kares. So I will say essentially the only time you get kares for shchutei chutz on a bama ketana is when everything takes place when bamos are prohibited. If consecration and offering all take place when bamos are prohibited, that's when you get kares. If one of those pieces are missing, there could be a lav, there could be an asay, but there is no kares. Weiter. Ve'ilu kachim. So we'll say, remember again, the Mishnah then goes ahead and discusses the various differences between things that you do on a bama and things that you do outside. So ve'ilu kachim krevim mishkan. So the Mishnah said, so listen to this. So the Mishnah goes through the list. So smicha. So we'll say you only do smicha inside the Beis HaMikdash or inside the Mishkan, or I should say on a bama gidola, but never on a bama kitana. Why not? Smicha tichsiv lifnei Hashem v'samach. Because they both say smicha is only done lifnei Hashem. Both say lifnei Hashem. Just to understand, the lashon of the Mishnah over here was uma bein bama syachal lebama sibor. Was there a private bama and a communal bama? Smicha shchita safon. So now we're going to see why that is. Smicha tichsiv lifnei Hashem. So both say smicha because the pasuk says lifnei Hashem. When you do smicha before God, so we always, in all of these contexts, you understand, before God refers to what Rabbi saying, literally again, in the makom mishkan / mikdash. Before God means not on your private altar, before God means on the centralized altar. Therefore, smicha is lifnei Hashem. Shechtas tzafon, the obligation to shecht certain karbanos in the north, tichsiv tzafon lifnei Hashem, same idea. Matnos saviv, putting blood on all of the corners of the mizbeach, tichsiv v'zarach al hamizbeach saviv. Here's the other piece. The pasuk says, "You shall sprinkle it al hamizbeach, the mizbeach." Rabbi say that's the hey hayidiyah, the definitive article. So hamizbeach means what? The mizbeach. The mizbeach refers to which mizbeach? The centralized mizbeach of the Mishkan or the Beis Hamikdash. Tenufa, the waving obligation. Dichsiv vehenif hakohen lifnei Hashem, has to be done before God. Hagasha, the bringing close of the carbon. Dichsiv vehegisha el hamizbeach. ultimately again it is brought close to the Mizbeach. Rabbi Huda Omer, Ein Mincha B'Bama. So Rabbi Huda says we don't offer up Menachos by a Bama. Amar Rav Sheshes L'Divrei Omer Yesh Mincha B'Bama, Yesh Ofos B'Bama. So also Rav Sheshes just says, according to the opinion who says that you offer up Menachos on a Bama, you could also offer up bird offerings on a Bama. So the Gemara says L'Divrei Omer Ein Mincha B'Bama, but if you hold that there is no Mincha on a Bama, Ein Ofos B'Bama. We don't offer up bird offerings on a Bama as well. Zevachim, so what's the drasha? Zevachim v'lo Menachos, because the pasuk says that you could offer up, right? Lamana asher yaviu b'nei Yisrael zivcheihem asher zovchim. So the pasuk says zvachim. So we darshan zvachim v'lo menachos, zvachim v'lo ofos. So we'll say that opinion. We'll darshan zvachim means animal karbanos, zvachim and not menachos, zvachim and not ofos. The kohen. We'll say, how do I know that I don't need a kohen on a bama? D'chsiv v'zorak ha-kohen. Because we'll say ultimately again the din of zrika, which is a din ultimately again by the bama gidola, is done by a kohen. So ultimately again a kohen only is needed in the Bama Gidol, in the centralized altar. Big day banana Bama Kitana. Big day sharis. We'll say furthermore again, you don't need big day sharis. You don't need any particular special type of vestments to do an offering on a Bama Kitana. Lish sharis bakodesh. Because we'll say by big day sharis, the pasuk says he will serve in the kodesh. Big day sharis Kohanic vestments are only necessary when or where? Inside the Beis Hamikdash or the Mishkan itself. Ukli sharis. So we'll say I don't need a kli sharis either. Why not? Asher yishar subam bakodesh, because ultimately again the pasuk says that they will go ahead and yishar subam, they will go ahead and literally serve with it in the kodesh. The reach nichoach. So we'll say the Gemara goes weiter for a pleasing aroma. So we'll remember again reach nichoach. What was reach nichoach? The halacha is interesting halacha about the Beis Hamikdash. You cannot pre-roast meat. The idea is that the meat has to be roasted on the mizbeach itself. That's the reach nichoach. The reach nichoach is the pleasing aroma which comes from meat which is roasted on the altar. If you pre-roast it, then the fragrant aroma of roasting meat is already released, and therefore when you put it back on the mizbeach, it's not going to be as fragrant. So I'll say that din only applies on the Bama Gedola, not on the Bama Ketana, only on the centralized altar, not on the private altar. So it says the Gemara, Reach nichoach, dichsiv l'reach nichoach laHashem. Because again it says a pleasing aroma to Hashem. How do we interpret la Hashem? La Hashem ultimately teaches me that what? That halacha l'maisa, there's only a din of reach nichoach when you're before God meaning on the Bama Gedola, a large altar, and not on the private altar, not on the Bama Ketana. We'll say, just by the way, I'll just, before the Gemara just darshan, I'll just tell it to you now, just very quickly outside, before the Gemara darshan about Zrika. So Rashi, I'll just read this outside. Rashi says, V'zarka koin es adam al-zvech Hashem Pesach, v'darshim v'daras koin parshas shchutei chutz, Zrikas koin Pesach o al-moed, v'en Zrikas koin bebama, ela'af hazorim va'avadim. So we'll say, so the din, that was just before we learn out that you need a kohen ultimately again in the Beis Hamikdash or in Shiloh by Bama Gidola, because there the pasuk itself says avoda is done by a kohen, v'zarak a kohen. That teaches you that the kohen is necessary for avoda, but there is no din ultimately again of kahuna by a Bama Ketana. Good. So the Gemara goes right there. Let's just do a few more lines. Mechitza b'damim. We'll say, what about mechitza? Now we'll say mechitza means that on the mizbeach, remember again, there was the chut hasikra, the red line. That was the divider. Some blood is sprinkled above the red line, some blood is sprinkled below the red line. There is no din for a mechitza by a Bama Ketana, right? There is no din for a dividing line on a Bama Ketana. D'chsiv v'haisa reshes ad chatzi ha-mizbeach. We'll say same idea. Literally again, the reshes, which was actually the netting on the Mizbeach, was the middle of the Mizbeach. So we'll say the idea is the dividing line was a din in HaMizbeach, not a din in Bama Ketana. Richot Yadayim. So we'll say, what about the washing of hands? Tichsiv. So we'll say that's also only a din in the Mizbeach, not a din in the Bama Ketana. Tichsiv ubekerbasam ela Mizbeach yurchatzu. Because the pasuk says when the kohen comes close to the Mizbeach, he will go ahead and have to wash. So we'll say same idea. HaMizbeach teaches me that Richot Yadayim, the washing of hands and feet, is only a prerequisite in service of the centralized Mizbeach, not on a Bama Ketana. Ama Rami Bar Chama lo shano ella b'kadshe Bama Ketana v'krivim Bama Ketana. So say Rami Bar Chama says, if you look at Rashi, lo shanu diyesh mechitza l'dam and Bama Gedola. But say, when do we say that there's only a need for a mechitza, for a dividing line on the Mizbeach, that's only Bekadshe Bamekitana, Vekrivim Bamekitana. We'll say, so if you have Kachim which are designated for a Bamekitana, which are offered up on a Bamekitana, then there is no need for a divining line on the Mizbeach. That is correct. Ava, both say first wide line on the bottom. Ava Bekadshe Bamekitana, Vekarvinu Bamegidol. Both is actually a very interesting halacha. But if you go ahead and you have Kadshe Bamekitana, offerings which belong on a Bamekitana, which were offered up on a Bama Gidola, Yesh Chitzui. Then Abosai, you would have the obligation to do the proper blood offerings above and below the line. So Abosai, is actually a very interesting halacha. So Rav Kahana, Rabbi Baracham is coming along and saying that there is no din of sprinkling above the line or below the line of Bama Kitana. But if you took an offering which was going to be offered on a Bama Kitana, and you offered it where? On a Bama Gidola, you would have to do the blood applications in the right places. Mosiv Rabba says, 1 second, Chazei v'shok. When it comes to the waving of the chest and the thigh of the animal, truma slach metoda, or for that matter, again the truma v'lach metoda, noagin bekadshe b'magidola, ve noagin bekadshe b'makitana. So Abosai, so we would normally assume that what's the halacha? So what you see from here, Abosai, is the halachos of a b'makitana apply. Certain things which are applicable on a b'magidola only apply if done on a b'magidola. But bepasha sabosai, if something belongs on a bama kitana, it is exempted from a lot of the halachos that really regulate sacrificial service on a bama gidola. Even if what? Presumably, even if that item itself is actually offered up on the bama gidola. In other words, what Rav Kahana is coming along, what Rabbi is coming along and saying, is that once something is designated for a bama kitana, the halachos of a bama gidola do not apply to it, even if it is actually offered up on a bama gidola. V'haraya, all of these things are both like the waving of chazei v'shok, ema noagin b'bama gidola, ve'ein noagin b'bama kitana. Rather, you're right, say that they apply ultimately again in the bama gidola, and they do not apply on the bama kitana. Ikidana will say they have another version of this exchange. Just finish this quickly. Amar Rami Barachama, Lo Shana El Bekadshe Bama Gidola. So it's just an alternate version of this previous exchange. Rami Barachama said, we only learned El Bekadshe Bama Gidola, Bekrivim Bama Gidola. When do you require blood applications above and below the line? That's only if it's an offering for a Bama Gidola that is offered up on the Bama Gidola. Avaba Bama Kadshe Ketana Afal Gav the Karvinu Bama Gidola en Chitzui. But ultimately, going to say, if you have Kadshim of a Bama Kitana, even if they are offered up on a Bama Gidola, we do not go ahead and start doing different blood applications. Which is another way of saying that if it's a carbon that belongs on a Bama Kitana, then it has the identity of a Bama Kitana offering, to the point that what Rabbi say, even if you actually offered up on the Bama Gidola, it is not subject to the laws of a Bama Gidola. Let me say, Rabbi say, let's bring a proof to this. Chazei v'shok u'trumas lach metoda. If you have the chest and the thigh of the animal, or the truma, the blows of lach metoda, noagin bekadshe Bama Gidola, ve'in noagin bekadshe Bama Kitana. So at first glance it says we conduct them like they were offered up on a Bama Gidola and not like a Bama Kitana. Ema noagin b'Bama Gidola ve'ein noagin b'Bama Kitana. Ultimately say that Rabbi say these things only apply on a Bama Gidola, not on a Bama Kitana. Upliga de Rabbi Elazar, dan Rabbi Elazar, olas bamas yachid shech nisa b'fnim. According to this version, this last statement argues on Rabbi Lazar. Because what does Rabbi Lazar say? With this we'll conclude. Olas bamas yachid. Rabbi say if you took an ola, which was ultimately supposed to be offered up on a bamas yachid, sheikh nisa b'fnim, and you brought it inside of the Mishkan, kaltua mechitzos, the mechitzos absorb it, l'chol davar, for all matters of Shabbosai. So it turns out, I'm sorry that I did this last part very quickly, but it turns out, Shabbosai, that what? That ultimately, again, there's a fundamental machlokis. What's the fundamental machlokis, Shabbosai? If you take something that was supposed to go on a bamas yachid, and you bring it inside the Beis HaMikdash, or not the Beis HaMikdash, you bring it inside the Mishkan. Shabbosai, obviously, this is a very unique case. That only comes up where? Only comes up where? Only comes up in Gilgal, or ultimately again between Shiloh and the Beis HaMikdash, where there still was a Mishkan, but yet you had Heter Bamos. If you had something that you were going to offer up on your private Bama, and now you bring it up, you bring it into the Mishkan Rabosai, so then what's the discussion? What is the status of that offering? Do we treat that offering still like an individual offering offered up on a Bamas Yachid, in which case, for example, there is no blood applications below the line, above the line, or do we say no? Once you are brought into the Mishkan, then what? Then what? You have the status of a Mishkan offering. Clearly, Rabbi Elazar holds holds that even if you are originally going to be on a Bamas Yachid, if you are brought inside the Mishkan, then you are treated like a Mishkan offering in all ways. Everyone else seems to say that no. Once a Bamas Yachid offering, always a Bamas Yachid offering. And therefore, even if you are actually offered up on the Bamas Tzibor, you are still treated like a carbon of a Yachid, and therefore no blood applications above or below the red line.